Hello everyone, and I'm just going to creep forward a bit. These impala are ever so slowly browsing out of our view, and I'm really looking forward to my final afternoon and drive with all of you on this live safari. And I couldn't have asked for a better camera lady than Nicola Austin, who I'm teamed up with today. So awesome stuff, Nikki. Good to have you on the back. And we are going to be having some fun this afternoon. We've got exciting plans, and we're going to head over towards where Karula, a female leopard, had her kill. Interestingly enough, it sounds like she's moved her cubs away from that kill. So she was seen moving quite far south away from that kill, moving her cubs away, which is a clever move on her behalf, because a hyena came into that area last night. Now, I'm guessing she's going to have nestled the two little cubs somewhere safe, and she's going to probably have come back, or possibly have come back for a meal. So we're going to head across there. It's a very hot afternoon. It's 32 degrees Celsius, which is about 89 degrees Fahrenheit. So not expecting huge amounts of action from the cats early on, but that may well change a little bit later. We've got Jamie out in the other vehicle, and she's teamed up with VM on camera. And for those of you who may be joining for the first time, it will sadly be the first and last time with me as your guide, as I'm going to be leaving along with Nikki, who's been a director here, and she's just getting an afternoon out behind the camera to change things up a little bit. It's happened a couple of times. This will literally be, I think, the third time. So we're really excited about that, but do forgive her if she has any shaky camera moments. And my name is Scott, which is useful if you haven't met before. We've got a whole big bunch of giraffe tracks on the road here, and you can see them all littering the road, heading down in that direction. And off those go. Very good. So we may bump into some giraffe, which would be great. Hello to Ginger, Barbara and Joyce, who are all looking forward to their last drive with me. Thank you so much for those kind words, and I am told many others, so apologies if we haven't mentioned your name. It certainly is bittersweet. We have both loved every second of our Safari Live experience, and a lot of you have been there. A lot of you have been here since long before I started or Nikki started, and we feel really privileged to have spent the time here, but are excited for whatever future travels we end up doing. And I certainly want everyone on board to try and be as happy as possible. There's no reason not to be. And please let us know your thoughts and comments and questions, and to do so, it's very simple. You can hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or send an email through to questions@WildEarthTV. Awesome. Now, something that's also going to happen this afternoon, we're just going to test drive it and see how Nikki copes, but she is going to jump behind the wheel and I'm going to jump behind the camera. So if any of you would like to send some questions through for Nikki to answer, please do so, and you'll get to hear her thoughts about that later. So that's also something exciting. That will be a Safari Live first. Nikki has never been behind the driver's wheel. She's often said that she's excited to do it, so today is the test of time. Very happy memory on this termite mound. Some of you will remember it was my first afternoon back from leave. I think it was the last leave, and we were driving down this road just as we were. I'm going to just reverse and simulate as we saw. We saw her from about here, just perched right on the side of the mound there, and then she continued across the road and did some stalking and hunting of impalas. Just going to check something on Nikki's camera quickly. Is that iris on auto? Yeah. Want that, mate? Bang that up a little bit.
Yeah?
With the bright glare, it's appeared like Nikki's shot was a little bit bright. There we go. The cameramen have been teaching me a few of their tricks as they go. Very good. Okay, well, we are going to be sending you across to Jamie Patterson so she can let you know her plans. We'll probably be about 4 or 5 minutes until we get to the position where Karula has left a young kudu kill hoisted up in a tree, and let's hope that she's going to be there waiting for us when we get there. Time will tell. Off to Jamie.
And a very good afternoon to all of you. And on this very sad last day for all of us here at Wild Earth, for Scott and Nikki, it does hold exciting prospects for both of them, so we shall try not to weep too much on our drive. But definitely a very sad moment for all of us. And I hope that Karula does decide to come out so that Scott can bid her farewell for now. A temporary goodbye, I hope. In the meantime, this afternoon, I'm following up on reports of the Nkahuma Pride that apparently, according to Scott, when he was out on tracking team with Nikki, their tracks were around Red Dam on Arathusa. Now, they tried to follow up. They didn't have any luck. I'm going to try and see if on this blistering hot 32-degree, 89-degree Fahrenheit day, there might be any sign of lions sleeping in the shade. Because if I were a lion, that is exactly what I would be doing. Oh, Red Dam. Not so much red as very bright, almost virulent green from the algae sitting across the top of it. Let's see, do we see lions in the shade? Apparently they didn't cross into Simbambili. They were around here somewhere, so keep your eyes peeled for flicking ears and flicking tails. That would be a nice afternoon start. Let's pop our noses down. See if we can see at least some sign of their tracks, or maybe where they decided to walk off to after they had a drink. Down we go. This is the first time, actually, that I've driven Wendy I've been trying to work it out. I think the last time I drove Wendy was Big Cat Week, so it's nice to be back on board as well. Just checking very carefully in the shade. I don't want to risk losing your signal by going all the way to the back. On days like today, tawny shapes of lions hidden and lying down in the shade can be tricky things to spot. But I think our next step, well done, Wendy. Our next step is to go and check the drainage lines, see if we can find them in the shade. So for new viewers, when I talk about the Nkahuma Pride, I'm talking about a pride of 5 lionesses, 2 adults and a sub-adult that I think has nearly earned classification as an adult. She's coming up to about, I would say, probably about 2.5, 3. So she'll be having her first litter of cubs in the next year or so and officially graduate into adulthood. Apparently, while I was away, you all got to finally see one of the Birmingham boys as well. They've been spending plenty of time around Cheetah Plains. One of them decided to pop onto Djuma and come and visit. Just checking very carefully down in the shade in the drainage line. As I said, it is blisteringly hot. There's a little bit more groundwater than there was when I left, so they might have decided to move on further. But I'm hoping they've stuck around this area. Doesn't seem as though they have crossed into Simbambili. These drainage line systems are a perfect hiding place for cats to lie in the shade. Viv and I were just talking about the one afternoon that we shared around at Red Dam. which I still think has to be one of my most incredible sightings to date, which was when Karula and Tingana were mating here a couple of months ago. And the Salala Pride were actually feeding off a buffalo carcass that had fallen into the drainage line. And Tingana and Karula had originally been feeding on that, so the two mating leopards had originally been scavenging that carcass. And they decided to make their way back there after being spent mating, and they weren't really paying attention, and there was a very, very close call between Tingana and Karula and the young Salala lion males. And they chased Karula up into the tree, the knobthorn around Red Dam. It's quite a fascinating sight. It was very stressful for a brief moment. Luckily, the leopards, despite the number of distractions around, were on their toes and aware of what was going on around them. Come on, Nkuhumas. Lots of water here. The other thing about being away for a while is that you sort of lose track as to what's going on with the animals. Usually when we're out every day, twice a day, you're aware of, for example, when the Nkuhumas are looking hungry or when they're very full, if they're going to be hunting and taking the opportunity, or if they're just going to settle and spend their day lying up in the shade somewhere. At the moment, I don't know exactly how hungry the Nkuhumas are when last they ate. I'm also checking the area quite carefully for any predatory birds, so birds of prey, as well as vultures. And if we see any of them sitting in the trees, either with leaves or on the dead trees, and patiently watching the ground below them, then we'll know that that's where the Nkuhumas are hiding. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, don't forget this is live, so you just never know what to expect around the next corner. And don't forget to also send through your questions on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Surprised by the amount of water here. Obviously, I missed out on some rather serious rain. Hello, Waterbuck. Looking a little bit nervous. See if I can catch up with this Waterbuck. She trotted away fairly quickly. There she is. Hey, girl. I thought maybe she was looking a bit jumpy and a bit nervous, but it was just because she wanted to cross the road ahead of us, I think. You saw that giant buffalo herd with James this morning. Buffalo herd is not a quiet thing. So I think if we don't have any luck around Red Dam, we might want to try and follow up on those buffalo and see whether the lions haven't decided to come and have a go and try and follow them for later this evening. In the meantime, while I continue my search for the Nkuhumas, let's cross back over to the gorgeous Scott Dyson and gorgeous Nikki Austin and find out what they're up to.
Welcome back. Now, somewhere in this beautiful big jackalberry tree, I'm told, is a kudu carcass. It initially looked like a impala kill, but James tells me that it was in fact a kudu. So at first glance, it doesn't look like anything's in there. Let's take a closer look. And we want to check kind of in the forks of the trees. That's where something will probably be wedged, maybe a little bit lower down. I don't know. It'll be quite hard. Oh, what's that there? There we go. There you can ever so vaguely make out a hoof. And great work on your focusing there, Nix. That was your first real challenge of the afternoon. And there you can see the tiny little hoof of an unfortunate kudu. Now, I thought that we'd come down here. We are down in the riverbed, and I thought I'd come down here because I thought maybe we'd find Karula sleeping in the cool, shady areas in front of us here. No sign of her though, so what we're going to do is we're going to continue around, and she could be lying up on the bank somewhere. Yesterday afternoon, I know she was lying up on the bank. I think somewhere right up there where you're looking now. At least when I popped in very briefly yesterday afternoon, that is where we saw her lying down. I wonder where the cubs were. They were somewhere here. There's 2 tiny new cubs and some perfect hiding places in there. Little gaps in the roots there. So they survived another night, and every single night that they do survive from here on in, they're going to be a lot closer to making it to adulthood. They've definitely survived out probably the hardest few weeks of being a leopard cub, and those are the first few weeks. They're about 5-6 weeks old now. So Karula has been doing a good job keeping, and we are guessing that that is exactly why she was seen crossing south out of Djuma this morning, taking them somewhere safe. And I'm fairly certain she is going to come back into the area to continue snacking on the kudu. I don't think they would have been feeding on it just yet. They're a bit too young for that. Usually from about 2.5 to 3 months of age, leopard will start feeding on meat, or at least that's what I've been told, and that's what I've seen in my history with them. But that is the beauty of being on safari, is that the animals often teach you new lessons. Squeeze tight, everyone. Okay, so now we are back up on the riverbed, or on the river bank rather. Let's take a close look around here. Hello to Country West, and thank you very much for sharing your first memory that you had with me, and that was on your first drive, obviously. And as we drove around a corner, we bumped into a big male lion. I'm guessing it was maybe one of the Matimba males, and ever since then you've been hooked, and that's such great news. Thank you for sharing that with me. And we've got some more great news. Nikki just smiled, pointing up ahead, and I think she may have seen something. Look who it is. It's Karula, the Queen of Djuma, panting very, very heavily. But I don't blame her. Like I said, it's an exceptionally hot and humid afternoon, and imagine having that beautiful coat to contend with in this weather. Okay, well, that's wonderful news. And now let's just try and get ourselves into a good spot. Now, I don't want to go too close to her. The fact that she's having to raise cubs at the moment is obviously tiring business, so she may be a little bit moody, that coupled with the heat. So we're just going to try and very slowly creep into a spot where we can get some. Nikki's just asked, is there no chance the cubs will be here? I mean, there is, but I think she was seen quite far away with them. Unless, of course, she was just taking them for a drink and she's brought them back, but I don't think that is the case. I'm quite surprised they were at the kill, because they are very young still to be at a kill. Okay, well, I'm just going to stop here. There are 1 or 2 branches in the way of her face, but she's lying up just there. And thankfully, Nikki's a little bit more elevated than me, and her face is in a perfect little gap of this buffalo thorn tree in the foreground. Hello, Jack. You would like to know if Karula isn't far out of her territory here. And no, Jack, I don't think so. Her territory basically encompasses the entire portion of Djuma, which is around 1,200 hectares. There's maybe small fringes of it that her daughter Shadow occupies, and maybe another female to the north. unlike humans who often have very square or defined properties, animals may be not so rigid, and I think that is certainly the case with her. Also, always changing, depending on her needs and the needs of other leopardess, there will be huge fluctuations in their territory over the years. But right now we are fairly close to the central parts of Djuma, so she's comfortably within her territory, which is critical during this stage of her raising her cubs. It would be hugely unwise of her to try and raise cubs in another leopardess's territory, because if that other leopardess did come across her cubs, she would kill them. Speaking of which, next, are you fully zoomed there? I think you might be. I was just wondering if we couldn't see any possible nursing rings or suckle rings, but I certainly can see a nipple. It's just above the horizontal branch, very close to the kind of crook of her leg there. You can just see a very light caramel spot in that white fern. Within that there's a little nipple. But on a hot day like this, you may have found she's left the cubs early this morning, filled them up with milk, and then she subsequently come back here, and that's why her nursing rings may not be as evident at the moment, because they would have dried out and that fur would have unruffled itself and become a little bit more fluffy. Hello to Angie and Becky, and it's great to have you on board with us. You would like to know, how long will a leopardess leave its cubs for? It's a great question, and I fear that not many people actually know the correct answer to that, because as we've experienced with this fine mother, leopardess can be hugely extra secretive when they do have cubs, and therefore we don't know exactly what happens with them. But what I can tell you from my experience is that 12 hours to 24 hours is certainly a length of time that a leopardess may leave its cubs for. That's just my opinion. I have seen leopardess move a long distance away from cubs, make a kill, feed on that kill, stay there during the day if the kill was far from the den, in order to not waste energy backwards and forwards just in order to nurse the young. So they're tough little critters, leopard cubs, regarding how regularly they get fed, I think, because it's critical that she needs to look after herself first, as with any mother, and thereafter, once she's found a next meal that's going to sustain her, then she can worry about sustaining the cubs. So I think 12 to 24 hours at least. Sometimes you may find leopardess even pushing the envelope and maybe leaving them for longer. But I think a lot is unknown regarding these beasts, especially in the wild. Obviously, there may be captive records as to what goes on, but wild leopard, who have the hardships of trying to work out where their next meal is coming from, together with raising the cubs, is not easy, and you can go to sleep, Karula. You deserve a little snooze. Well, good news is that Quarantine, a previous offspring of this female leopard, who had a brother called Djuma, he's just been found by Andrew. And sadly, it's not on Djuma, a little bit to the east, away from us, but happy to hear that one of her 3-year-old sons is doing well. It sounds like he's made a kill as well. So mother and son are in a similar state this afternoon. Hello to Khada, and good to know you are watching. Khada, you've mentioned that the cubs are about 6 weeks old now, and would like to know if this is this age where she will start moving with them from the den. And Khada, I think she's been moving with them permanently from the day they were born. Not permanently, but, you know, I think she's had multiple den sites over the last few weeks, I may be wrong, but in those times the cubs will need to move from place to place, and she might carry one while the one walks. Let's see what happens here. Next we've got some little crested francolins on the scene, and they are heading towards her, and I think she's going to hear them, and we may see a second kill. Oh, no, next, let's check out what she's doing. Sorry, I'm whipping Nikki all over the show here. Oh, no, she's just turned around, like turning her back to the francolin, so that's not what we wanted. But she is looking up into that tree. And over there somewhere. I don't think we can see it from here. So, yes, Gerda, I think they would have been moving quite a bit up till this point. But like I say, it's just so hard to tell because we haven't seen her, so we don't know what she has been up to. Hello to Britt, who's just mentioned that this is Karula's tea party that she's thrown for Nikki and I after we threw a tea party for Gracie, who was in her very, very beautiful Cinderella dress yesterday for our tea party that we had at the Arathusa Air Traffic Control Tower. Yeah, the little crested francolins. And they seem to be sneaking past Karula unnoticed. Interestingly, I think Karula may perform for us shortly, so I want to get into position. She keeps looking longingly up into that tree. So let's see if we can't get into position and wait for her. Failing that, I mean, at least we'll be able to show you what remains of the kill if she doesn't decide to move up now. And while we go there, I'm just going to update the guys on the radio that she is in fact in this area.
Can I get an update? Good afternoon, Corvette. Very much young, but I swear
We're going to have to do quite a big loop around. No, we won't actually. We can squeeze through here. So we should get a very good view of this kill that she's made. She made it, for those of you who haven't seen any signs of this kill yet, or haven't joined in on one of the recent safaris, she made this kill sometime, not last night, the night before. She was found yesterday morning. And interestingly, she had dragged this kill at least 50 meters, at least, across a road all the way to this tree in specific. And we could see that drag mark in the sand, where she would have been holding the prey probably by its neck, and then the whole body dragging between her two front legs as she moved. Oof. It's not going to be easy to get you a gap from here. Let's see if we can snap a gap from over here. Whew, the kill's already very smelly. Hello, Betty and Virginia Nix. If you don't mind just turning the camera now so I can see if you're going to have a gap there. There we go. Oh. That was a stall into, I think, the perfect position. And there you can start to make out that lighter shade of coloration there. There's the kill. Not easy to see. There's not too much to see, although you can clearly see the fur there. There's a lot of meat left there, so that's good news for the Queen of Djuma. She's still got lots of food before she needs to worry about her next meal. Hello to Betty, who would like to know if there's any chance that the cubs will start trying to look for her. And I think it's highly unlikely that they would. I mean, those cubs that do, Betty, sadly are going to be the ones not to make it. So generally the process of evolution and genes and genetics will mean that the cubs that do try and perform those stunts are the ones that not make it, like I say. So they're probably just going to be quite well behaved. I'm hoping if they do make a noise and tumble about and roll around from side to side and fight with one another, that is going to create a lot of attention to them and could get them into trouble. I'm going to try and get that radio update through now. Earlier on there was a bit too much traffic on the airwaves. Stations Karula is on site at the Bamba off Twin Dams Road, south of Elephant Carcass.
Okay, copy that. Confirm. It's just only one more there.
Yeah, just myself here, Tex. There you can see a different angle of the kill.
Come and join you.
Yes, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay. So, that's all that remains of the kill. I think we should also be able to get a gap of Karula from here. Maybe not, though. We shall see shortly. Ooh. I'm going to have to creep forward just a little bit. Not ideal, but that is the best we'll get for now. Now, there was a hyena in this area this morning. It could well have moved off and just banked the knowledge of the fact that there is a kill here. Obviously, tricky business for a hyena because it cannot climb a tree like this, so absolute torture. And it may be in a nearby mud wallow with the intentions of coming back this evening, and I'm almost certain that later on, as things cool off, there should be some more action here. Yes, Karula, I think some more hyena will be coming, sadly, but you've done a very good job and already got your kill safely hoisted up into the tree. Interestingly, I've spent time in areas where some leopards, one day they'll hoist, the next day they won't. Even with cubs, you know, they'll feed with their cubs on the ground, kill on the ground. Hugely dangerous scenario to be in. You've got your, you know, jaws crunching on bones and you've preoccupied on feeding, and that's when something sneaks up on you. But thankfully she hasn't made the same mistake, at least not today. Hello to Lenny in Pennsylvania. You are wondering about leopard cubs and their ability to survive, and whether or not they're learning, or the sooner they learn to climb a tree, will that kind of guarantee the fact that they'll be able to survive? Sadly not, Lenny. Even the little cubs that she has now probably will be able to climb, not very well though, and even from about 3 months of age, they can climb, and then they are going to be moving from kill to kill. So there they are, time after time, kill after kill. They are going to be exposed to the threats that are associated with kills, and they will be able to climb. But it's like being able to ride a bike during your first week. You may be able to consider yourself a bicycle rider, but not a very good one. And I think the same applies for leopard cubs. They can climb trees, but not very well, not as quickly as they would like. And I would say once a leopard cub is upwards of 6 months of age, then the future's beginning to look bright. But anything before that 6-month period is an absolute lottery. The odds are sadly stacked heavily against them up till that point. Obviously, every day up to that point, their chances of surviving increase. But only from about 6 months of age would I start being able to think, okay, there's a good chance that these are going to make it. to JD in Maryland. You're wondering about the coloration of these animals, and now that we can see her lying on her side, she sticks out quite easily. And you're wondering, why doesn't her whole coat simply have that more mottled caramel gold coloration with the black rosettes as opposed to the white? And I think it's just, you know, they haven't had, oh, nice big yawn there. I just don't think they've got the reason or need to be able to cover that part of their body or conceal it or change its color, because when they are stalking their prey, that is flat to the ground. So when they are ever looking for food, those parts that ordinarily stick out when they're rolling on their back or lying on their side, they will never really give them away. So even though I guess it wouldn't hurt to just be the same color all around, it's not essential that they are. Ooh, you can probably hear me glugging on some ice cold water. Ooh, it's very refreshing. Now it's Nikki's turn. That's why you can see the camera going up and down. She's trying to drink and camera lady at the same time. Hello to our beard, who would like to know, what is the biggest prey that a leopard would kill? Sure, I'm quite impressed with the kudu kill that she's made here, our beard. It's quite a big kill for a leopardess. Obviously, male leopards can make far bigger kills than female leopards. And this kudu, even though it's a youngster, it's not tiny. Difficult to tell from this angle, but it's not a newborn. Could be a couple of months old by now, judging by the angle that we're looking at it from. But yeah, I'd say something up to twice her size is definitely possible. Easily up to twice their body weights a leopard could take on, and not hugely different for the male leopards. I've seen male leopards with adult kudu kills, and an adult kudu will weigh upwards of 400 pounds, and a big male leopard will only weigh about 200 pounds on average. So they are said to be one of the strongest cats pound for pound, and I could agree with that. I mean, the mere fact that they can hoist kills of their own body weight, sometimes even slightly more, whilst carrying them in their mouth. I mean, imagine putting something heavy in your mouth, even if it was comfortable, a comfortable grip that you could chew onto, and then have this big weight hanging below your own body weight, and then even climb up a step ladder. I mean, think about that, and that's not going to require any skill. What did I just hear there? Did you hear that, Nix?
I think it was her.
I don't know if, as I turned around, she was completing a growl. Maybe she had a burp mid-growl.
I think it was a burp.
Yeah, it seemed like a burp mid-growl. She would have no reason to let off a growl, but I quickly turned around just to make sure we weren't getting on the wrong side of her. Just like humans, animals can sometimes be a little bit moody. But judging from her behavior now, it doesn't look like that's the case. I'm wondering if she wants to move, because as soon as she does move, and hopefully it's towards this tree to start feeding, we're going to need to reverse to get out the way. But I'm ready for that, so just to keep you guys updated with the plans, we're kind of currently in her way to the kill. She could obviously very easily get around us, but we don't want her to have to do any extra work. Cat in temper. Yes, it's not easy being a leopard mother. Imagine having to leave your newborn offspring away from you in such a dangerous place with no protection, no babysitters, while you go out to try and get the next meal to feed the family. Incredibly, incredibly difficult. And I think us humans often forget how easy our lives are compared to the wild animals. All the assistance and aid we get from doctors and babysitters and general security that we can provide to our youngsters. Well, at least hopefully some of us can, or some of us will be able to in the future. Let's move back a little bit now and see if we can't get ahead into a slightly better spot there. There we go. Ah, Marianne, it's time to get a little photo with Karula in the background. I don't know how we're going to work this out, Nick. It's not going to be easy. More? Hello? She's too, Nikki doesn't like the lights apparently.
There you go.
Oh, well done. You see, Marianne, it's difficult with Karula behind all those bushes. You're not going to be able to see her if Nikki's focused on me. But we tried to get that screenshot opportunity with me and my ex-girlfriend over here before Nikki came along. Ruined everything for Karula and I. Shame, look at how heavily she's panting. Trying her best to keep cool. Hello again to Kat, and I hope all is well in Florida. I've spent a short portion of my life there in Fort Lauderdale, scrubbing decks of yachts. It was most fun when I was 18. You would like to know if I've ever seen a leopard kill? Yes, I've seen a few. The first kill I actually ever saw in the wild was a leopard, and the only kill that I've ever managed to share with you here on Safari Live is with this very leopard we're looking at now. She caught and killed a baby impala, who she had actually orphaned. She had caught its mother the night before, and the poor baby impala started calling desperately, hoping that its mother would return its calls, and that alerted Karula to the little lamb's presence. But I think it's the best thing that could have happened to that poor little lamb, because it was obviously going to be suffering immensely without its mother.
On the opening title sequence.
Ah, there we go. It's the kill that's captured on the opening title sequence, Cats. Thank you, Nikki. Are you going to get up, Karula? What's all this yawning about? I'm getting ready for her to move. Just a slight reposition, it looks like. Because she is no longer in our view now, I'm going to move back a bit. Texan's just arrived in the sighting as well with his guests. Wonder if this might not work next. It's as good as it's going to get for now, sadly. Hello to Isabella, who's just 5 years old, and you would like to know if Karula misses her cubs while she is away from them. And I'm sure she does, Isabella. I'm sure she's constantly thinking about them, thinking, when should I go back? When do they need their next meal? I definitely think she does have them at the top of her mind. Nikki's just huffing and puffing now because the smell of the kudu kill is wafting directly down into us, and it does not smell very tasty. It will, of course, be quite tasty for Karula, because the more mature it becomes, the softer it will become and the easier for her to feed on. But I can assure you it is not a pleasant smell, although the wind is thankfully wafting, and it's temporarily not wafting towards us. Well, it sounds like there's another vehicle arriving here, so what we're going to do is make our way out and give them a better option to view, and that way we'll share the sighting with them and make our way back here a little bit later. Station approaching this Karula sighting. If you come up onto the banker, you'll get some better views. You won't be able to get a view from down there, and I'll make space for you. You should find an access road just further ahead of you. You'll see the tracks leaving the drainage. Okay.
Is she around here?
Yeah, affirmative. From where you saw me, she was just 10 meters off to the right of my vehicle.
Yeah, copy, thanks.
No problems. I'll make space and leave Taxon here as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, very good. Obviously, we'd love to spend the whole afternoon here, but we do need to share, and everything happens for a reason, so we'll go and find some other animals and come back to Karula, hopefully, when she's a little bit more active. Shame, it appears like Jamie's vehicle's not doing the best regarding signal. It's recently been off at the health spa, and although the engine may be running perfectly now, some of the technical side that gets the broadcast out to you is not. So that's why you haven't seen her for a few moments, but she is in search of signal along with other things. Never did I think in my guiding career that I'd have to worry about searching for signal during a game drive, but that is certainly a price worth having to pay for being involved in this wonderful live safari experience with more people on Earth at safari together at any given time. There's no one else doing this. We are part of a revolution, the safari revolution. Hello to B. Wilson, and thank you so much to all of you who are sharing your memories that we have all shared together with one another. B. Wilson remembers my very first drive, and it was probably, you couldn't have asked for a better way to start off. I got called by Peter Pretorius, who had found a wildebeest that had just started giving birth, and he very kindly brought the vehicle back, got me into it, and said, "Go on, it's time to start your safari live career with the wildebeest that's about to give birth," which was very kind of him, and it was a very memorable way to start. It was the first kill that the first birth that I'd ever seen. Interestingly, though, what you wouldn't have known about, and what I've never told you, is that the plan was to head out at 7:30. So Peter was going to do half the drive, and then I was going to do the second half. So I looked at my watch, and it was like 5 to 7. I still had 35 minutes to go, and I thought, okay, well, I need a visit to the lavatorium. And there I was in the lavatorium doing lavatorium things, and I just heard somebody screaming, "Scott, Peter's here, it's time to go." There goes a vervet monkey clambering up this tree. Let's see if it stops in a spot where we can see it. Or is it going to hide out of view? Oh, it looks like there's some more coming. Nix is already on the ones that are on their way here. So, oh, watch this. It's going to jump up onto the tree there. And I think it's decided to clamber up. But, oh, there it goes. Well done, Nix. Nix is making this look a lot easier than it is. I think she is a natural camera lady. Considering this is only her third time behind the weapon, I think she is using it incredibly well. How beautiful is this ginormous jackalberry tree where the monkeys have disappeared into? Let me see if I can't get another gap of them somewhere here. Oh. It's going to be tricky. They're sneaky customers, these vervet monkeys. And Andreen, I'm glad you agree with me that Nikki is indeed a natural camera lady. Have I got you in a gap there, Nix? I don't necessarily think so.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, well done. Peekaboo. What you snacking on? You sucking on a little seed there.
Good afternoon.
Yummy.
This is route and update.
It's not uncommon for them to kind of hide and just keep an eye on you peeking around the corner. I'm sure there's more than just the two that we saw disappear up into this tree. The rest of the troop could be elsewhere. Okay, very good. So now, to give you guys an idea of how far Karula did move the cubs, I mean a minimum, from the moment we've left that kill, we've been driving directly south, and we're probably going to have moved about a quarter of a mile by the time we get to our southern boundary. I'll say at least a quarter of a mile from the kill directly south, and that is where she was seen crossing. She probably walked down this riverbed that's flowing below us here, and who knows how far she took them into the next property. Have a look here, Nix. We got you. Your friends weren't as obliging as you. Nikki's keeping you guys in suspense there with a delayed focus. That's a new technique we're trying here.
Sorry?
Hello, you. Look at how awesome this is. You can... Oh! Oh, no ways, Nix. I'm going to have to creep forward a little bit. Take a look at the ones below. It's on the next branch down, Nix. Below. Look at that one sleeping like a leopard. It is chilling out. Not a worry in the world. Oh, it looks like it just got up there. But it was lying down like a leopard earlier. So this looks like the rest of the troop. Got a slightly better view of this one as well. This one's mouth is full. Its cheeks aren't supposed to look like that. It has stuffed its cheeks absolutely full of some kind of food that it's ever so slowly chewing on. So there we go. You saw seed fall out its mouth. Now keep watching. It's just going to keep doing that. What is it you're feeding on? It could be the fruits from this tree, the jackalberry tree or ebony tree, but I can't be certain. Oh, Nikki just did a little focus pull there onto the other monkey in the background. We sadly don't get to spend as much time as we would like to with our primate cousins, and it was really wonderful to see that one lounging about in the tree there, and also to see these others nibbling on whatever fruit they've jammed full into their jaws. Okay, well, we're going to probably push on now. I'm thinking of maybe slipping onto our eastern boundary and then shooting up to the Buffelshoek waterhole to see what's going on there before making our way back to Karula. And the good news is Jamie has found you some other animals that she would like to show you.
I had some signal. I also had some Inyala to show you, but unfortunately, while Scott has found leopards and monkeys and all manner of fascinating things to show you, Wildy and myself have found 3 Inyala that are now gone. So we've done exceptionally well for this afternoon's work. Their fluffy tails disappearing into the bush. Let's see if we can try and get another view, but I don't think so, unfortunately. It's just one of those afternoons. I'm also making my way back towards Djuma. There, see, I promise there's an Inyala in there. There's an ear. There's one eye. Definitely our sighting of the day. What do you think, Wildy?
Yeah, well.
Award-winning.
We can go back home now.
We can go home now, Wildy says. So yes, there's 3 female Inyala hiding in there, and while I've been watching them, And I think I'm actually going to continue because I don't think our view is going to get any better than that. While we continue, I'm just been thinking about, oh boy, here we go, Wendy. She does sound like she's struggling, but I think it's actually okay. I think Wendy's absolutely fine. But yes, while I was driving Arathusa and looking desperately around for some signal and some animals, I was thinking about my first memory of meeting Scott. Now, it was back in the day when I came across for the job interview. It was before Steph started at Wild Earth as the operations manager. So I think at that point, Scott was in charge of organizing my arrival. And he phoned me and gave me the most confusing, I think officially, and I've been directed to a lot of places, he gave me the most confusing directions I have ever been given in my entire life. To come and find Gowrie Gate and to find Djuma. And I remember being completely and utterly terrified and intimidated by this whole prospect. And then I met him and Nikki very briefly just before my interview, and then they rushed off to go on leave. Now, my initial introduction to Scott was very brief. Let me just pull over. This is good news. I might be able to find out. I think the guys have found Shadow. I think I heard something like that on the Game Drive channel. I just want to see if I can find out where exactly she is. How's it?
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, I'm Harry.
I'm Jamie. Nice to meet you, Harry.
Nice to meet you, James.
Do you know where they've got Shadow? Or how's it? Sorry. You no idea where they've... Okay. I'll see if I can find out for some of the guys. I can't hear on the Game Drive comms. Cool. Okay, no. All right. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye. New guide at Nkoro. His name is Ari. So I think that they found Shadow somewhere around. It sounded to me like they'd found her on Simbambili, but it was a little bit difficult to hear the update. So I'll try and get hold of that information for you and keep you updated. Of course, all of us are now wondering, after Karula and her wondrous cubs, whether or not there's a possibility that Shadow has had cubs as well. As far as I know, nothing's been discussed amongst the guides, but it was definitely, or at least nothing's been
and it turns out I know one of the couple's sons. So we just, what a bizarre place and what a small world it is. Okay, guys, good luck and wonderful to meet you. Enjoy the rest of your safari.
And your new venture.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Make sure you log in and send through some questions. You get prioritized if you're an ex-guest. Cheers, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Wow, what a crazy coincidence. We just started chatting and they asked how they can find out more about these live safaris and where they can tune in. And then the one guest asked about James. He said, is James your competition? And I was like, well, not really. We're all part of the same team. And then it turns out that James and one of the couple on that vehicle's sons, a guy called Jay, another James, worked together at Londolozi. And I also know James, the other James, not the one we all know. So it was wonderful just to chat with them. Sorry about Jamie's signal. That's why you did get rushed back to us. And Jamie's regaling you guys with her first memories of Djuma. And next quickly. Have you got it? Look at this. This is the best view ever of an African green pigeon. Look at how smart the colors are on this bird. And their Afrikaans or Dutch name, papegaaiduif, is a very wonderful and descriptive word meaning parrot dove. which describes it very well. It's a fruit eater, and they are usually very, very secretive. Look at the bright yellow legs, that big white eye, bit of pink on its beak, and certainly the best view that I've ever got of one of these birds with you. And that is the beauty, again, of being on these live safaris. You just don't know what you're going to see and when. And even though I've seen this bird countless times with you, this view is spectacular. Kindly being brought to you by Nicola Austin. Well done, Nikki. She's very focused now, making sure she doesn't lose focus. Oh, Janet in Baltimore, you would like to know about the bird feeder that I made last year, the nectar feeder. I made a video about it, which was probably the first mistake, because I thought it was going to be far more popular amongst the birds of this area than it actually turned out to be. It was never visited. I did give up filling it up with my rooibos tea and sugar mix. That was the nectar concoction that I was making for them. And what I can tell you is that those nectar feeders do take time to grow on the birds. They don't understand exactly what they are initially, and I don't think I tried for long enough. But I will be taking it maybe on my future endeavors with me, and hopefully I will get it operational somewhere, and I'll be able to show you guys some videos of it working at a later stage. All of my kind gestures towards the birds of Djuma have failed. My nectar feeder being the first, and my very high-end luxury cavity in a tree, which was designed as a nest site for the cavity nesting birds. The only creature that's been seen in it so far is a squirrel, and it wasn't even by me. I think James Henry saw that. So at least something spent at least a few minutes within that cavity, but in general it hasn't been hugely successful. Great. Well, I'm so happy we got the view of that beautifully colored papagaai, Dave. They've got a wonderful, wonderful call, the African green pigeon. But I don't think it's going to make it with us so close by. Hello to Alan in New York, and thank you so much for getting a hold of us. You mentioned that you don't send through questions very often, and there's no problem with the silent safari ninja that simply enjoys being on the vehicle but not chatting too much, so no worries there. Thank you though for letting us know that the first question you did ever send through to Safari Live was answered by me, and just little comments like that it's made me so happy to know that. And I guess it's not just about the questions then. Any kind of interaction you can let us know about is much appreciated. So thank you for that, Alan, and I hope all is well in New York. One thing I forgot to mention is that the last half an hour of the safari will be sat around a campfire, and really looking forward to that. We're going to be playing a few clips, some of which I have seen, others which I haven't, so I'm really excited to see those, obviously, and I would love you guys to all join in on that adventure. We have been a little bit lazy for various reasons. Maybe lazy is the wrong word, because that's not entirely the case, but we've been a little bit maybe underprepared for the fireside chats, but we usually do them every Sunday night. for the last half an hour of the safari. So for those of you who have only joined the Safari Live experience fairly recently, that may be something that changes going forward. Also, please don't forget to send through your questions that are going to be asked to Nikki. The next time you come back to us, you may be getting taken around on a wild safari by Nicola Austin herself, with me hanging on to the camera desperately.
Coming down this road, Roger.
Just going to keep an ear to the Game Drive channel, just to make sure we don't miss any updates regarding Karula and what she's up to. Okay, we shall be sending you back to Jamie Patterson for another update on her movements.
And unfortunately, my luck persists, it seems, on Arathusa. So far, I've seen probably about 3 impala and those 3 inyala. Every time I try and stop for a bird, it flies away. All the lizards are dashing away from me. I think it's time I go back and try my luck elsewhere. No signs so far of the Nkuhumas and no updates from any of the other guides as to their whereabouts, and no information yet on shadows. So as soon as I find out something about that, I promise I'll let you know. But that's interesting, because there's buffalo walking quite far across in front of us, and it could well be the stragglers of one of the herds. Now, the reason I say that's interesting is this is exactly where the Nkuhumas or their tracks were last seen going into. They could well be following behind that buffalo herd, and I think it's a good idea for us to follow up and find out where they're going. And one very confused warthog following behind them as well, apparently. We'll catch up with them on the other side. I just want to see what this impala's stopped for. She's listening. She was listening intently off to her right, our left. Does seem very nervous and very separate from the rest of the herd. I know what she's seen. No, she's relaxed again. Pays to be an attentive animal out here. Here the warthog families crossing the road. And I think they're on their way. I'm fairly certain they're on their way towards that mud wallow on Impala Plains, so we'll catch them there. And while we do that, while we loop around them, Jack was wondering whether or not we get any boom slugs in this area. And Jack, we do, absolutely. I think we've had a couple of really, really enjoyable boom slug sightings. I know at least one of those was on a walk. I can't remember which presenter it was with. Might have been... Brent definitely had one, and I think James might have as well. Fascinating, beautiful snakes, one of my favorites. Hello, gorgeous. Please stay. Hello, beautiful boy. This stunning male kudu. Sorry, Jack, I'll get back to your boom slug question. Definitely one of our more magnificent kudu bulls. I love the way they do that. They pick a tree to hide behind. like we can't see them that way. This is the one with the tightly coiled horns. We've seen him along with Zeus, the widespread horned kudu, on a fairly regular basis in this area. There's a group of about 5 of these males of a similar size. There's not much more that is as dignified as a kudu bull. Quite a stilted walk. I wonder if he's limping ever so slightly. It's one of those old stories about kudu. Whenever you stop to look at one kudu, you will see more. And there's one all the way at the back there. I don't know if you can see it fully. There we go. Let's go see which one that is. I'm sure it's this group of 5 kudu bulls. Now, for those of you who pay a visit to the Great Kruger, or the Greater Kruger area, and you make a trip across to Skukuza, which is one of the largest, I think it is the largest camp in the Kruger area, there's an incredible bronze statue of 2 kudus fighting, stuck together. And it's actually not that uncommon for them when they do clash, for those twirled horns to catch each other. And they quite often trap themselves that way. It can even lead to the death of the males concerned, or having a good scratch. Imagine having built-in back scratches like that. Very useful. Looks as though he wants to come this way, so we'll just let him come to us. The Sandparks emblem, that is the kudu head. And you can see why with this silhouette and with this level of dignity, they're one of the most striking antelope out here. Now, I discussed quite a bit this morning. I discussed about myself and Brent's trip to the Kruger. We actually saw the largest antelope species, which is a cousin of the kudu, the African eland. You forget, if you don't see those antelope for a while, you forget just how large they really are. He's stopped for a snack, so I think we can go forward. Luckily, we've got a really subtle approach. I'll try and get a really nice view of this particular male. As you can imagine, horns like that, when they are solid bone, are actually fairly dense and fairly heavy. And with that comes a very solid, sturdy neck, and then the ridge of fluff along the top and then down underneath the beard and below the neck. And Gerda was wondering what you call the hairs on the bottom of the neck. Would you call it a mane? What would we call it? And Gerda, actually, I'm not sure. They do have something of a dewlap. The male kudu have a dewlap, so a slight flap of skin underneath their neck that makes them look bigger and more intimidating. You can start to sort of see it just where his neck meets his shoulders. But what you would term the hair, I suppose you could call it a mane, or I've always thought of it as a beard, but maybe that's not entirely anatomically correct. And that ridge along the top, combined with the hair at the bottom, is there to intimidate any rivals. It's not something you see on the females or the youngsters. It's only in male kudu to intimidate other males, make themselves look bigger and scarier. In very much the same way that Inyala have taken that to an extreme in their fluffy displays of the dance that they do. Here's our other kudu. Are you going to get a fright, boy? Shall I just wait for you for a second? Let's see. It's just the 2 of them as far as I can tell. Now, kudu are interesting in that they don't have any kind of set herd structure. So although they are sociable animals and sociable antelope, they don't necessarily move around in set groups. They quite happily move from in little bachelor herds or little herds of females and their youngsters, and then will one day just move off on their own, or groups will split and come and go. So when I said that there were 5 males, we usually see 5 males together in this group as a whole, but it seems as though the other 3 have decided to move on.